faith stories,
My now wife Chelsea was like, "Hey, you're coming to church with me on Sunday," and I was like, "All right, I've been looking at the Bible. Let's do this."
fishing memories.
When I first started, I was just fish, focus on the fish. And I see the kid catch a fish. I'm like, good job, perfect, awesome. And then he goes up there and I'm like, we're catching slot snook. And this kid's up here going, oh, the breeze. I'm like, this is exactly what it's about.
Meaningful conversations.
You have to stay in the Word. You have to have a good support system. You have to know what the end goal is. You have to know who God is.
Positivity. This is the Faith and Fishing Podcast. Your hosts, Cam Steele.
If your identity is you're an angler, whenever you're not doing well in the water, that's whenever you can't be content.
And Robert Randall.
And his timing is perfect. We might not always agree with it, and we might not always understand it at the moment.
Bring you interviews with some amazing guests from the fishing community and discuss all things to do with fishing and their faith. Welcome to the family.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
Hey, and I'm Robert.
And Robert, you have quite the lag.
Yeah.
Just a second.
Yeah, so I was...
All right, let's see if that fixed it.
Try now.
You still got a pretty decent lag. So we will see how it goes. But just soak it in, y'all that are watching on YouTube, because my co-host over here is sitting here with a better beard than mine. And it is looking right this episode. But Robert, how are you doing, man?
Doing good. On a different computer tonight, so we'll see how it goes. We may have to pause it and let me mess with it if it's still lagging behind. But had a pretty good week, and just getting geared up for Lake Murray and looking forward to that. Didn't do any fishing, but hopefully we can get out this Saturday.
Okay, I was getting ready to ask if you had been fishing because I know we had a big warm spell there for a while. Everybody except for me was so much happier. Everybody was talking about, oh, I'm so tired of the cold. I'm so glad that it's warm. It's so wonderful. And I'm over here like, I've been chafing for a week and a half. What are y'all talking about? But yeah, we're back in that. This is what a normal North Carolina winter is. It's that, mid to upper 50s in the daytime and gets down, has frost on the windshield in the morning. So it's that sweet spot for me, at least. Everybody else was enjoying that 75, 77 degree weather we had over the weekend. But yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting the kayak out Saturday. I say hopefully. I told my coworkers, I was like, I don't care if it's 10 below zero. Whenever I wake up Saturday morning, I'm going and taking the kayak out. So we'll see how true to my word I am. But yeah, I've got a plan in mind, and I'm excited to get out there. How about you, man?
Yeah, I haven't figured out what exactly we're going to do. I know there's a couple of local clubs have a lake cleanup planned, but it's about hour and change drive. So not sure if I'm going to drive to that, but I'm definitely going to try to get out somewhere. I spent the afternoon connecting some foot steering to the NK 180. So I definitely want to get out and test that out. I kind of was missing that since I switched from the SS 127. I had foot steering on it with the XI3 on the front, and I really missed kind of the hands-free fishing because I was always fiddling with the rudder on the P127. So it'll be interesting to see if my feet are small enough for the pedals and the foot controlled steering, because it's kind of a tight fit, but I think it's going to work.
Awesome. Yeah. Speaking of electronics, I think it was Tuesday night. I went and I did my sonar pod for my Moken. So put it. I will say the 20 amp hour battery from Nakwa just fits in that thing. It does not fit all the way down in the bottom like I was hoping, but it does fit. So I'm going to be able to run my fish finder and my USB port off of that. Got a nice Nakwa dual port USB charger there. So be able to run the camera off of that and charge my phone if I need to, all that good stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm
cool,
pleased with how it turned out.
Yeah. You sent me a picture of it out, and I definitely am jealous of the way it looks. I'll be interested to see the video when it comes out. So yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, I set up my Tacticam and it had a SD card error, so I recorded it on my phone. So we'll see how it ended up. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with the camera on the phone anymore. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, and sometimes like I said it in the last episode, some of my worst videos are my best, most viewed videos. I guess not best, but my worst videos are the most viewed. It makes no sense to me, but it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. And that I have a feeling it will be something we talk more about with this week's guest, because this week's guest is I'm gonna call him an up and coming YouTube angler and kayak angler that we're excited to talk to. So let's say thank you to Get Outdoors, and then let's get our guest in.
Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle is one of the largest canoe, kayak, and cycling retailers in the Southeast, with a huge selection of kayaks, canoes, bikes, and all the accessories needed to experience paddling and cycling comfortably and safely. Get Outdoors helps to expand and educate the paddling community through their free demos held on local lakes in the Greensboro, North Carolina area, and through in-store clinics and on the water courses and demos, and will even get your new boat rigged up for kayak fishing for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or visit them online at shopgetoutdoors.com to be wowed by their selection.
All right, so this week we have a guy who last year he showed up on our Faith and Fishing Facebook group, and I am so glad that he did, because we are not the best in the world at keeping conversation going there, and we needed someone who was going to be active up there and really keep conversations going and everything. And he has really done that. And I've been watching a few of his videos lately, and I'm liking what he's got going on. And we are excited to welcome Chase Carlock from it's Southwest Indiana Outdoors. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thank you guys very much for having me on.
Absolutely. So go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us who Chase Carlock is.
All right. So yeah, I'm Chase Carlock. Live in, of course, Southwest Indiana. I've been here for the last 14 years. The wife and I moved here to help out with the church. So I moved here, got into kayak fishing back in 2020 when COVID shut my job down for about a month and a half, and been running that ever since. Get out on the kayak as much as I am able to, and yeah, spend a lot of time doing that. I have 4 kids, so life is kind of wild. They're 10, 9, 8, and 5. So,
woo.
Man. All right. So you said you moved down to help out with a church. What do you do with the church?
So I was helping out with a small church, was a youth pastor out there. We actually have just recently moved to another church over the last year, and have seen a lot of growth amongst our family, which has been amazing.
Awesome. So I always ask, anytime we have somebody on the show who does anything with youth ministry, what is your favorite age range to work with?
Oh, I mean, I would have to say here lately, I've been pretty blessed to be around a lot of kids that are in the teen years, which has been something that I didn't have a lot of experience with in the past. Most of my time with youth, I've been in the younger range, with about 12 being the oldest. So lately, I've been working with some kids that are a little bit older, and I've really enjoyed that.
Okay, absolutely. All right, man. So go ahead and introduce us to Southwest Indiana Outdoors. Let's talk about the channel and how that came to be, and what kind of videos you got up there. Just give us the whole rundown, man.
All right. So started out with a GoPro, picked that up, would have been in 2022, probably, I think, about mid-year that year, and recorded quite a bit of footage and just didn't feel comfortable on the camera. So recorded a lot of footage that ended up just going straight to the delete file, and spent some time recording, decided finally to make my first video and posted it early 2023. And from there, I just decided to dig in, whether I liked the looks of the footage or not. I said, hey, I've got to start somewhere, right? And continued working. And throughout the year, started posting more frequently and seen my channel go. Like I said, I think my first video I actually posted right at the end of 2022, and then throughout 2023, I think I posted a total of 60 videos, full length, and then quite a few short form, and saw my channel grow from 0 subscribers up to 1,000 right at the beginning of January.
That's
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just watched the one where you kind of gave all of your stats for last year and talked about your goals and everything. I just finished that one. So I was gonna ask if you had hit that thousand mark yet. You were so close on that video. So congrats on that. I think we're at 62 on YouTube. So we just lost Chase. There he is. Yeah, we don't spend a whole lot of effort on the YouTube side of things. So one of my pet peeves is listening to a podcast where there's a lot of visual gags and they have like, we're going to play an ad now, and it's nothing but music to the podcast and stuff like that. It's like you're an audio platform. Don't forget that. So whenever I started this, I was like, I'm going to make sure that the podcast listeners don't feel like I'm doing them wrong. So, but I do want to do more with YouTube this year for my personal stuff and for the podcast. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, congratulations on that milestone. And let's, when was it that or have you gotten to the point where you feel comfortable on the camera yet?
No, not even close. I can say more comfortable, but not even close to being there. I still, especially videos where I talk a lot, I have a really hard time putting those together, editing them, and being pleased with it. So that's been a big struggle for me. Fishing videos, I don't feel too bad. I know I've got to get more. I've got to talk to my audience a little bit more in my fishing videos, but sitting down and recording like this situation, I have a really hard time watching myself, going over and listening to it. So yeah, it's
Okay.
something that I'm breaking myself out of that shell by force.
Yeah, and that's just something I think we all struggle with that. And I re-listened to our podcast from last week today, which I normally don't do. But it just came up in my feed, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to listen to that. And I think it's good though to go back and listen to it and watch your videos, and I do that with my videos as well. And I pick out the things that I don't like, and the last episode, I'm like, oh my God, you're going on and on and on. Shut up already, dude. And it's just like, you have to go back and you have to give yourself constructive criticism in order to
Yeah.
get better, and you go back and you look at some of these guys with 100,000 followers, go back 4 or 5 years ago and watch some of their first videos. And it's like, oh my gosh, they have come so far. And, and I see that in my own videos too. I still have a long way to go. But congratulations on the 1,000, getting over 1,000 subscribers. And one thing that I noticed, and I played around with quite a bit in 2023, and then I got busy at work and kind of fell off the wagon of posting stuff. But I was in a pretty good habit of posting a lot of shorts, and I see that your channel, you have a ton of shorts, and I was gaining subscribers like crazy. On the flip side, though, I was getting the subscribers and I was getting a ton of views and stuff on the shorts, but I couldn't figure out how to convert them to the full length videos. Are you seeing some of that? And if you're successful, how do you get them to convert to watching those full length videos?
Yeah, definitely a struggle. I do post a lot of shorts, and like you said, I mean, it's definitely growing subscribers. I do see some of my shorts translate into full length videos. A majority of them, because you can now link a full length video into your short. So
Okay.
going through and linking that full length video in sometimes pulls some views. I'll say I get minimal views directly from a full length video, or from a short.
Right.
Maybe I may have a short that hits 2,000 to 3,000 views, and full length video views come in anywhere from 4 to 10 out of that video. So definitely not seeing the same numbers in full length as shorts, but it does seem to pick up a little bit of traction, and I think that traction kind of brings some traffic onto my other videos as well. Of course, it does grow that subscriber count, which is what made my push. My first short video I posted in May of last year. Up until then, I think I had a total of maybe 10 subscribers.
Yeah.
So from May of last year up until January of this year, I went from that 10 to I'm a little over 1,100 now.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I guess I kind of got discouraged with the shorts because I was getting, I think last year when I started posting, I had like 150 subscribers, and I started posting, did it pretty regular for a couple months, and it grew almost not doubled, but I think I gained like 80 in a month. And I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
And then I started looking at the metrics, and I'm like, well, I'm not converting any of this to watch hours. So that's something I need to figure out. Maybe that linking it, like you said, will help me do that too. And really, I think your consistency is the key, as is to anybody. And that's one thing I struggle with too.
Yes. Yeah. That's something that I just kind of made myself be consistent with it. I got to throw in there, I'm very blessed to have an awesome wife. Like I said, I have 4 kids, so it's really hard to get out there on the water. And like I said, right at 60 full length videos last year. That was a lot of work editing. And then it's a grind making all those shorts. It seems like something small, but it's a grind. And a really amazing wife helps watch kids and says, hey, it looks like it's going to be a really good day. Why don't you go out on the water and get the kayak out? So, that right there has been a huge help for me this year.
Wow.
Yeah. Blessed.
Oh, man. That's awesome. I did want to go back real quick to the being comfortable on camera. One thing that really helped me with that, I was already comfortable in front of a microphone and stuff because I'd done speaking engagements. I was a youth pastor for 5 years and was used to talking into a microphone, used to hearing myself speak. So it was the seeing myself and like talking to a camera while I was doing something that I got had to get used to. Something that really helped me, like whenever we're fishing and we're trying to learn a new technique, they say the best way to learn it is to just go out and do that. Don't do it. Don't do anything else. Just do that. And something that really helped me was going on. So for me, it was Instagram. For you, it could be YouTube, and doing a live video. And like whenever you've got like you get a few people in your live and just talk to them. And the great thing about that is they can interact with you. They can ask questions. They can help prompt that conversation and everything and get you comfortable talking while you're doing something, to the point where talking while you're tying a knot becomes second nature, or remembering whenever you set the hook to say something other than
Yeah.
So for me, that was something that really helped.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. I've actually thought of that. I've thought of doing that. I've just got to continue to push myself. Like you said, dedicate that time. I have that fear of, well, if I go live, nobody's going to end up following, and it makes me struggle to get that started.
Yeah, that'll happen too, but then it'll pick up. I think lives are a good thing, and you see a lot more people using that on a consistent basis. I know there's a lot of podcasts that are going live, and like you said, going live, and then they're doing some, then is it a podcast or is it a video? You struggle with that. I know we had talked about that before, but I see a lot of people that are successful with the lives, but that's one of my fears too, is like, nobody's going to want to come on here and do that. And then I look at some of these other people that are doing it, and I was like, well, they listen to those guys. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting, the whole, pretty amazing what we can do now with technology and video, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, so Chase, let's kind of get your background in fishing also. Like, what was it that got you started in fishing?
So I grew up an outdoorsman. We lived in the middle of 120 acres of woods, so spent time, hunting. We had a tiny creek in our property, and would go down there and catch 2 to 3 inch bluegill out of that creek. So started fishing when I was pretty little. My dad has been a cat fisherman for a very long time. So we lived close to the Kaskaskia River in Illinois, and it's known for big flathead catfish. So we'd go out and catch flathead catfish on the weekends a lot. We actually ended up having a river camp for a few years, and on the weekends throughout the spring through about late fall, we would spend almost every weekend out there fishing, and went from there. So one day I decided to pick up an ultralight rod and caught a few crappie, and it just turned it around for me. That became my passion. I started, really fell in love with ultralight fishing, and especially crappie fishing. And for the last probably 10 to 15 years, that's been my thing. I love crappie fishing. I do that as much as possible. I know you guys call them crappie up there, but we call them crappie. And so do that as much as possible. And then last year, really, I'll say, watching YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube. I watched Greg Blanchard's videos over the last couple of years, and seeing him and the camaraderie that he had. And I know you talked about this on your last video, Cam, but the camaraderie he had during some of the bass tournaments. And I was like, man, I don't know how to catch bass, but that looks amazing. So why don't I go out and learn? So I started out my first tournament I did last year. I fished mostly with an ultralight rod and ended up catching a single bass on a day that it was like 35 outside with the wind blowing almost 20 mile an hour. And it was a brutal day on the water, but catching that one fish, it was a 16.5 inch bass, made my day. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in love with this already, and I'm out there in a paddle kayak. So, battling that wind and that
Nothing wrong
paddle
with
kayak. Yeah, exactly. I know you're there with me. So yeah, I started bass fishing last year, and I can say, kind of like you said, when you need to try something new, just making yourself do it is the big thing. And I went out and started throwing a lot of different lures. Happened to run into again on the camaraderie side, ran into a guy during a bass tournament, and he said he had been catching bass on a crankbait. So I said, well, I've got a crankbait sitting here on the console of my kayak right now. I said, but I've never caught a bass on a crankbait, never in my life. And he was like, tie that on, and it'll turn your day around. And I'd had a bad day, no bass in the boat. I think I'd caught like 4 crappie that morning, and we were probably about 2 hours to lines out, and tied on the crankbait. 5 casts later, caught my first bass of the day, and then ended up catching two in that tournament. But it was on lures that I'd never caught a fish on before. And from there, I just continued saying, "Hey, I'm going to start throwing something I've never thrown before until I start becoming confident with it." And I started catching bass on chatterbaits, and spinner baits, which is something that I still struggle with pretty much. But it seems like when I catch one, they're good. So yeah, just that was, I think, the big thing that I learned last year is making myself versatile made a big difference.
Absolutely. Robert is your spinnerbait guy.
Oh yeah. Spinner baits are clutch, and you are correct. Most of the time, you don't get. Well, me, I'm the same way. I don't get as many bites, but usually when I do, it's a good one. I like to run the spinner baits down riprap. You can find some big chunk rock and stuff like that. That's where those things really shine. But just so you know, crappie is the correct way to say the name for that fish, and because where you're from, I'm not far from you. I'm taking it you're close to Evansville, around
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Clarksville, Tennessee. So just right down
Okay.
I-24
Yeah.
from Evansville. So I fished that area a lot growing up, and Kentucky Lake Barkley, that whole area. So crappie is correct, and now you just opened up this year with the bass fishing deal, like 100 more rabbit holes. So you got the crankbait rabbit hole, spinnerbait rabbit hole, and it only just keeps there's just more rabbit holes. You fill up one, and then three more pop up, and it just I don't know. It's exponential how fast you get into different things, and kayaks, and I don't know. It doesn't end. So we kind of talked about that last episode too, with the craziness of some of the people's electronics and stuff. But
Yeah.
that's how it all gets started. So it's pretty cool to hear people's stories about that, and cool story of the transition from catfish to crappie to now going down that bass tournament rabbit hole, and it's pretty cool.
Well, I think that Robert, you're fired. I I can deal with you saying crappie, but I can't deal with you saying that it's correct. Nah, but yeah, I agree that so I'm a multi-species guy too, and I always go out and I'm like, I'm gonna do multi-species fishing this day, and I go out and I'm starting to load up, and I'm looking over at the bass gear, and I'm like, I'm gonna throw a square bill today. But yeah, so let's dive into your faith too, man. So I know you said you've worked as a youth pastor and everything, but let's kind of give us your faith story. What is it that you believe, and how'd you come to believe that, man?
Yeah, so I'm apostolic, was raised that way. My grandpa was my pastor for the first 21 years of my life. So had an awesome, small country church that I grew up in. My dad played the bass, my mom played the piano, my aunt played the organ. I mean, we had, a whole band up there. Most of it was family, so a small family church. Like I said, my grandpa was the pastor. He passed away when I was 21. So, I was 20 at the time when he passed away. And I'll say that, I definitely I had somewhat of a relationship with God at that point. I mean, like I said, I was raised in church. It wasn't an option of not going. You just went. Like I said, grandpa pastor, my dad was up on the platform. I just knew I had to be there, but I didn't have a true walk with God, and I think that's the big thing that changed. Especially when my grandpa passed away, we had it was a struggle for a small church, and I think that it made us stronger. We really had to press in and fill a gap that he had been filling for a long time, and through that, I started, deciding that I needed to make some changes in me. I had a lot of anger issues when I was younger. So, decided that I needed to make some changes in my life and started to more dedicate my life to God and made some pretty major changes. And then, ultimately ended up giving my life to God and have, can't say I haven't strayed multiple times since then, but I feel, so much closer than I was as a kid, to him.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Robert. You look like you were about to say something.
Oh
Okay.
no, it's just when he was talking about daddy played bass and mom played piano, and I was just thinking about because I grew up in Southern Baptist church too, and
Yeah.
his daddy played bass, mama sang tenor, me and little brother, we just joined right in there. So that made me chuckle, and so it's pretty cool when and a lot of your story and my story are the same. My grandfather was you say pastor, but my grandfather, I've said it before on here, was a preacher, and there's two different two different things. That he definitely was a preacher. But it's the same thing. You brought up in churches because it's just what you do on Sunday, and you don't really realize until later on and get that relationship, and and then you figure out all the stuff that you learned and you listen to, but you may not have learned, and you didn't really take in the way you should have when you were younger. And then a lot of that stuff comes full circle as we get older, and it's really cool when you start seeing your kids. So um, uh, Cam has one kid with another on the way. You've got four that are quite a bit younger than mine. I have three, but then when you see those three start making that turn as they get older, my oldest is now 20. So we get 20. My daughter's birthday is tomorrow. She'll be 18, and Ryder's 16. But my oldest is starting to figure some things out in the last few years, and it's pretty cool when you see that come full circle with your kids, and just pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm excited about. Like I said, I knew I was raised in it, my kids are raised in it, but one day they're going to have to make the decision themselves. And that's, as long as I'm reflecting that correct light, then they've got the best decision to make. So that's the big thing, living it in front of them, showing them what it's like to live this kind of life, is definitely the way to convince them what it's worth.
Yeah, most definitely. And I can definitely relate to having my grandfather was also a pastor, so I can relate there, and I can also relate to how things change whenever you lose that patriarch, especially whenever the patriarch is like the spiritual like foundation of the family, like, and like, so whenever that kind of gets kicked out from under you, you kind of learn like what part of your foundation is real, what part of it was I was leaning on grandpa's understanding and not on something else, or not on God, or I didn't understand that myself. I had faith in my grandpa who had faith in Jesus, kind of thing. So I definitely get that part of your journey as well. I was I think a little a little more mature in my walk in terms of like I had been saved for a while. I was kind of on that path of becoming a youth pastor whenever Grandpa passed away. I was, I think, 19. So yeah, but yeah, definitely there's a lot of similarities with all three of us. So definitely get that. What part of what part has your faith played in your YouTube channel so far?
So I'll say the biggest thing that it's paid off. I mean, you know, a big thing. I try to make sure I don't ever use any foul language. That's something that I had a problem with when I was younger. And like I said, I used to have some anger issues. So, keeping the foul language out of it because, I like to watch a lot of videos and I want to think of, hey, if my kids are watching this, what are they going to see me doing? So that's a big thing. But it's also given me, I feel like some opportunities. I get a chance that when I'm out there on the water, I get talking to people and get an opportunity every once in a while to talk to them about God. And ultimately, I want to roll that into my channel more. I know that currently I don't dedicate enough time to God in my channel, and that's something I definitely want to grow in. Last year, it would have been, um, I think late October, I actually had a chance. I ran into a young kid on the water, talked to him for a little while, and just struck up a conversation. He was fishing on the bank by himself. I had just got off the water, pulled my kayak in, and started loaded up, and just struck up conversation. You see a younger kid. He was 15, so see a younger kid out there fishing. It's nice seeing that. You don't see a lot of young kids out there. And talked to him for a little while, and he just went on about how he wanted someone to fish with. And I was like, well, hey, you know what? I said, I love kayak fishing. If you ever decide that you want to go kayak fishing, I've got a spare kayak. I'd take you out, but I don't care to fish off the bank either. I'll fish in any way I can. And later on that night, I actually had his grandma get on my channel and comment on one of my videos and say, hey, um, he's his only father figure in his life was his grandpa, and his grandpa passed away several years back, and said that me talking to him about fishing and everything really sparked something in her, and she actually went out and bought him a kayak later that week. And me and him have been on the water a few times now, and through that he's actually started coming to church with me. So
Awesome.
I mean, it's just such an awesome thing that I don't think would have happened had it not been for me having a YouTube channel, because I had originally got out that day and planned on going on my favorite body of water. I got out there, the wind was brutal, and I was like, I can't get the kayak out in this. And I was low on footage. So I was like, well, I really need to get out on the water. So I went and hid a different lake that I would never normally fish and spent a couple hours on that. And had I not hit that lake, I would have never seen him at the end of the day. So, yeah, I feel like my channel put me in touch with that young man when it would have never happened.
Absolutely. Yeah. And whenever I ask that question, I'm always nervous that somebody's going to take it as, well, he knows that I don't preach on my channel, and I probably should, but I don't know if you're familiar with Bone Hampton. He was he's a stand-up comedian, and he does a lot of churches and stuff, and he's a Christian stand-up comedian, but he doesn't like to be called that. He's like, I watched him in an interview one time, and he was asked about like writing Christian jokes, and he was like look at, like, he named, I think it was like BB and CC Winans, some really, really successful gospel singers. He was like, you look at them and they don't focus on writing Christian songs. They focus on being the best songwriter and the best singers that they can be, and God shows up in their music because he is inside of them. He's like, I just focus on writing the funniest jokes that I can think of, and God shows up in those jokes because he is inside of me. And that was, at the time, I was playing in a band and I was struggling writing Christian songs. And that was something that really helped me. Was it kind of took that pressure off, and it was like, just focus on writing the best song that you can write, and God will show up in that song because he's inside of me. And what I create is going to, like, he's going to be there. So like, I definitely see God in your channel and in other content that a lot of our guests have had. And even if it's not like explicitly Christian, like preaching or anything like that, like I definitely see God in that. And like, I want to encourage anybody who is a content creator of any kind that is out there, struggling to write a Christian song, or trying to make something Christian. Just focus on doing the best you can at that. God's going to show up in it because he's in you.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And, it's just like you said, you would have never been in that spot to connect with that young man. And, the fellowship of what we do on the water, and before tournaments, after tournaments, and even the podcast talking about fishing, it brings people closer together, and it always brings, some people closer to God, whether that's the intent or not. I feel like if you live your life in the best way possible, and you're close to God, then that's going to show through, and people are going to ask you, like, hey, what are you doing? Like, you're always in a good mood, and you don't seem stressed, or it's, well, you know what, I'm not always in a good mood, and I do get stressed, but I also have an outlet for that, and talking and praying, and and that's the outlet that a lot of people don't have. And that's, what a good outlet fishing is for that too. It relieves stress, and just like the song says, that's where I talk to God.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll say what you just said. I mean, it's spot on. I had someone comment on one of my videos recently. It was my last tournament of the year. I ended up losing, I think, a total of 4 fish that would have scored in that tournament. And I mean, we can get, and I'm not going to say I didn't get upset. I definitely said, oh man, I can't believe I lost another one. I needed that fish, but I stuck with it throughout the whole day. I ended up only catching 4 out of 5, but I overall had a pretty decent tournament because I stuck with it. I made myself stick with it no matter what. And I didn't let myself get in my own head. I didn't turn negative. And I think it is, God is out there with us, especially when we spend time. I mean, nothing like spending time in his creation. He's out there with us. And if we just open our eyes to what's going on around us, we'll see him in a lot more things.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, there are a couple questions that we always ask all of our guests. And you are no different. So we are going to ask you too. So what fishing story or memory means the most to you?
So I've been thinking about this one because I do know that you guys always ask this. I have a lot of good fishing stories. Of course, growing up fishing with my dad is a lot of good memories. My boy caught his first fish out of the kayak earlier this year, or this past year, that is. And that was good. But I have to say, I think my favorite fishing story, and I have a video on my channel where I took my youngest son and my oldest daughter out fishing, just me and them. We fished from the bank, and she had cast out this little bitty crankbait. I mean, it was probably 1.5 inch crankbait, and she was reeling it in slow, and she's seen a fish come up and try to get it, and she pulled it out of the water, and she said, "Oh man," she said, "it almost got it, Dad. It almost got it." And then I watched her on her next time she cast in there. She had seen where that fish had come out of the grass and almost hit that lure, and she slow reeled it in and got it right in there, and then kind of worked the lure right there, and all on her own caught that fish. The fish came back and grabbed it. And she was like, I got it, and seeing her do that, my kids have caught fish on worms and stuff like that, but seeing her work that little lure and pick that fish up after she had missed it the time before, seeing her be able to read that and come back and catch it was just exciting.
That's cool.
Heck yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, you already told us a couple of stories about this, but what are you usually talking about out on the water if you're fishing with people? What kind of conversations do you like to strike up?
Yeah, so I of course fish alone a lot, fishing out of the kayak, fish alone a lot. But I mean, obviously, if I've got my kids out there, I like to tell them stories about times that I've been on the water, obviously good days on the water and sometimes the bad days on the water. Um, Fishing with that 15-year-old that I've fished with a couple times now, just getting out there and talking to him about the outdoors and getting some more experience. Again, not many kids that age are spending time outdoors. Most of them spend a lot of time behind a screen nowadays. So getting out there and talking about the outdoors. Again, I grew up hunting. I love hunting, and talk to them about that too, and say, hey, if you enjoy fishing, there's more for you outdoors. There's so much more that you can do.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we are going to move into our What's Your Favorite segment. It is self-explanatory. We're going to ask you your favorite in a few different categories, and it is powered by Nakwa Adventure Gear. And we are going to get that started.
It's time for What's Your Favorite? Powered by Nakwa Adventure Gear. Power that fits in the palm of your hand.
All right. So, again, Nakwa Adventure Gear. This is the 10 amp hour battery. Like he said, power that fits in the palm of your hand. This thing, it powers my cameras all day, and it's I think the 10 amp hour battery weighs 2 pounds. So going from a sealed lead acid battery to this guy made a huge difference in the weight in my kayak. So definitely check them out. And I tell you what, if you are interested in Nakwa Adventure Gear, email info@nakwa.com and say, hey, Heidi, Faith and Fishing podcast sent me to you, and just see what happens. I've been told that something amazing might happen. So definitely check that out.
I think I'm looking at putting some batteries on my boat. So
Perfect.
Absolutely. And they've got all your connectors and lights and all that stuff too. Everything is completely waterproof from the battery to the connectors. So they'll get you taken care of for sure. All right. So Chase, what is your favorite scripture?
I can't tell you the exact one. I know it's Psalms 121, but the scripture is, I'll lift up my eyes to the hills from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from thee, O God. And that's just, so many times that I've been in a struggle, and I've been through some rough years over the last 10 years. And I've seen that, when it seems like I'm at my worst, when you're down in that valley, you look up to the hills and God's right there fighting the battle for you. You don't have to go into that uphill battle, because he's fighting downhill and taking the enemy out for you. You just got to turn to him.
Yeah. It always amazes me, because there are a few times where we get the same verse, because we've had a lot of guests. Now, there are times when we get oh yeah, I remember such and such said that verse. But uh, probably 95 times out of 100, we get such a different verse, and it and they're all great. It's just one of those things that, you know, God is right there for everybody. And what you get out of reading a passage, or reading different sections of the Bible and different books, and you're gonna find that one verse that you keep going back to. And it's amazing to me that most everybody just comes up with a different one, and I'm like, oh man, I like that one too, and I'm like, maybe that's my new favorite.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of cool. But kind of along the same lines, what about your favorite Bible story?
Oh, so man, that's tough. Um, I mean, you can't go wrong with the story of Jesus dying on the cross for our sins. I mean, that's definitely got to be ultimate favorite. Um, I'm a huge I'm a history guy, and I like battles. So, David is a warrior. There are a lot of good stories about David. So, and it's tough. It's tough. I like battles, and I like reading back to some of the battles in the Bible where God's people came into the battle, and kind of like my favorite verse. It's that tough battle to fight, but when they actually give it to God, they end up winning.
Absolutely. We do get a little bit more of duplications on that one, but there's still a huge variety
Yes,
on that
there
one.
is.
And like everybody who like says the same ones, they all say the same one for a different reason. So that's cool. Um, all right. So your favorite fish to catch?
Favorite fish to catch is still crappie.
So
Nice.
favorite fish to catch is crappie. What about your favorite fish to fish for, to try to fool and trick to get to bite?
Man, I will say that again, I've never been a
Bass,
bass
bass,
fisherman until
bass,
this year,
bass,
but
bass,
I'm gonna
bass.
say that it's definitely changed this year. It's been a blast learning to bass fish. So yeah, I'm leaning that way.
Absolutely.
I
All
thought you
right.
might say that.
So your favorite fish to eat?
Hands down, flathead catfish.
Okay, did not see that one coming. I was not
Hands
expecting
down,
that one.
hands down.
Okay. How do you cook your flatheads? And what size flathead is the best size to eat?
They're all good. I've eaten 60-pound flatheads, and I've eaten 5-pound flathead. They all taste the same. Pure white meat. They're not a bottom feeder. They don't just eat dead fish. Flatheads are big on eating live bait. So that's how we catch flatheads when we fish for them. And yeah, so their meat is pure. It's white and super flaky. We usually cut it up into chunks. It'll be, about a 4-inch chunk by probably 2 inches. So, a pretty good chunk of meat. And, you get a big flathead, you can get a lot of meat off of them and fry it up. I gotta say, fry it up with some Andy's fish breading. That's by far the best. Got to go with the Cajun style, a little bit of spice to it.
Okay.
Some hush puppies on the side.
Yeah, yeah, can't go wrong with that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right.
So we don't need GPS locations or anything like that, but what is your favorite body of water to fish?
So we have some strip pits not too far from us over in the Evansville area, and I like to fish those. I'll say they are some heavily pressured waters. If I go out on a weekend, I might see 30, 40 boats in the big lake there, and that's a lot on that little lake. Um, Even the one that I like to fish the most, you can't go very far without running into another fisherman. But the biggest fish by me, and Man, it's like you said, going out there and tricking the fish into eating. It's pretty awesome when you're going around a boat that has grass all over it, and they're throwing lures out and not catching anything, and you're pulling in 3 to 4 pounders right by them, and sitting in a kayak without any electronics on the boat and paddling around past them when they got a big motor on the back. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, your favorite fishing snack?
This is going to be a different one. I've not heard this one on your channel. I'm going to say almond M&Ms.
Almond M&Ms.
It's the best M&M there is.
Okay. I don't know that I've ever had almond M&Ms. I've had almond Snickers. Those are really good, but I don't know
They
that I've
are.
ever had almond M&Ms.
Yeah, they're in like a tan bag. It's kind of an odd colored bag, but almond M&Ms. Check them out.
Okay. I guess you eat them cold. You put them in your cooler and eat them cold. Otherwise, you'll be drinking them, right?
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah.
On those hot days on the water, you don't want to reach your hand in that bag because they're all solid.
Yeah. So let's see. What about favorite lure? What's your favorite lure to throw?
So I got to go back to the ultralight fishing. I've learned a lot on the water this year, and I've had a blast throwing a crankbait. I've caught some big fish on a crankbait, but my favorite lure is a little jig. It's a Mr. Crappie Thunder by Strike King. It's a tube jig, but it's not hollow bodied, and I throw that normally on an 1/8 ounce jig head, and everything eats it. Everything eats it. If I'm having a tough day on the water, you're going to see me flipping an ultralight jig. And I've caught, like I said, literally everything from tiny bluegill and red ear to biggest bass I've caught on one was a little over 4 pounds, and then caught a 15-inch walleye. So I mean, you never know what's going to hit that jig.
Cool.
Absolutely. All right, and last but not least, your favorite time of year to fish?
I surprisingly had a lot of fun fishing in the summer last year. I've normally struggled in the summer because I've not made myself dedicate the time. I'm not a big fan of the heat, but this last year I spent a lot of time fishing in the summer and really enjoyed it. But I still got to go with spring. Spring's my favorite time.
Okay. Are you a pre-spawn, post-spawn, or spawn fan?
I would say pre-spawn has been really good to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Coming up quick.
Quicker out here than for you over there, but
Yeah, that's true. Awesome. Well, we're going to start wrapping things up, man. If you would, let us know, what do you have coming up next for you and for the channel?
So, planning on, again, like you said, you watched my video, talked about some of my goals. Planning on really working this year, getting more content out, getting a lot more fishing under the belt. Going to try some new things. We don't have any smallmouth in my area, so wanting to go somewhere and try to catch some smallmouth. I would love to get on a river this year. I have a buddy, Chris Hogan. He has a channel as well, Chris Hogan Fishing, and he's talked to me about getting out on the water with him. He's caught some really good smallmouth over the last year, and going to try to take me out and get me on the water fishing for those. Signing up for a few more tournaments this year than what I signed up for last year, including I'm planning right now and working out the logistics of it, but planning to fish one of the kayak adventure series that Drew Gregory's putting on, fishing the Ozarkana. It's about 3.5 hours from the house, so planning that one out. I think that'll be a good time.
yeah, I agree with that. I think that series is going to be good. So I'm interested to see if I can squeeze one in, even though they're not really coming super close to us. But
yeah,
I think the closest one may be Georgia, and that's still quite a haul. So I don't know if I'll make it to one, but I'm going to try to.
Yeah, for sure. And shout out to Jay's Jigs. They're right there near the Lake of the Ozarks. They'll definitely be in that area. But yeah, definitely check them out, y'all.
Okay.
Use promo code FNF10, 10% off. All right. Chase, let us know where to find you. Let us know where to find the YouTube channel, social media, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so YouTube channel is Southwest Indiana Outdoors. That's where I'm going to post the most frequently. That's what I've spent most time on building. I do have a Facebook page, Southwest Indiana Outdoors as well, and then have a TikTok that I've just kind of played around with. I haven't spent much time on there, but same name, Southwest Indiana Outdoors.
Awesome. And I wanted to give you an open floor to give shout outs to supporters and sponsors and anyone you wanted to say thank you to. You've got the floor, man.
Yeah, so first shout out again, got to say thank you to the wife. She has been absolutely amazing. She's the one that bought me my first GoPro. So got to throw that out there. I wouldn't be doing the channel if I didn't have that camera. Um, and spending time out on the water while she's watching the kids, and those times can be brutal. So spending time out on the water and she's home watching the kids has been amazing. So thankful for her. Um, and then this past year, I started partnering with Yak Rods. I'm an advocate for them, so I have a few of their rods now. And man, when you go from a $20 to $30 rod from Walmart, and that's what I fished with for a long time, and go out and fish a tournament for 8 hours and think that something as easy as casting shouldn't be that bad, and then come home and be like, man, my whole body hurts from throwing this rod. And then you upgrade to a rod that is a little bit higher class. Oh man, it makes such a world of difference in the sensitivity, in the weight of the rod, everything. So yeah, shout out to Yak Rods. Very happy to be a part of their team, and I think there's big things coming there this year as well.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, Chase, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've definitely enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to getting caught up on more of your videos and content, man.
Yeah, thank you guys very much for having me.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. Well, Robert, what'd you think about this one, man?
Oh yeah, man, it was good. It was good. And the whole time I'm sitting here and just thinking about all the things that were going through my head before we started. And then I'm like, in the intro and this housekeeping stuff, I didn't talk about any of this stuff, but the Hobie just ended last week. So I'm going to put it at the end. I'm still going to talk about it real quick, but the Hobie and the Harris chain had 2 North Carolina guys that blew it out of the water the first day. Didn't quite follow it up on the second day, but man, 2 of the biggest bags ever caught in the Hobie BOS. Well, one of them was the biggest bag ever. It set a new single day record. But Hunter Hernandez and Wham Fishing, and his name is going to escape me now, but
Wyatt.
Wyatt Hammonds.
Yeah.
But shout out to both of those guys for representing North Carolina, and what a fun weekend to watch Tourney X. I was definitely on there. Monster fish. A ton of big fish caught, and
one of the guys caught like a 13.5 pounder in practice. I mean,
yeah, that was about the ugliest bass I've ever seen, though. That bass looked like he was mean. That was like a mug shot of a bass. He looked like he was going to prison for life. But what a fun weekend to watch that. And then, this week, which once this airs, it'll be next week, but I'm still going to pick on the MLF a little bit because you know what? I was ready. I was pumped up to watch that first round, and that was part of the cutbacks, and there was no live coverage of the first round for Group A or Group B. And then today there was live coverage, but I didn't watch it. You know what I watched? I watched the NPFL, their day one, because they did have day one coverage. And let me tell you what they did. So the same thing. They're a smaller group. NPF is smaller than MLF. They don't have quite as much money. But what did they do? They put 3 live cameras in the boats. No announcers. There was no cameraman in the boat. They were just stationary GoPros or small cameras. Don't know what kind of cameras they were, but it had good picture. And they put one in David Fritz's boat, Shelton's boat, and I forget the third angler. But man, I had fun because those guys commentated their own days. And, I was working, so I just was, catching it on and off, 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there. But, what a great idea to save money, not have to, commentators weren't there. You didn't have the camera crews. They just turned it on and let it roll the whole day. And I think there's a lot of value in that, and MLF can take some notes from it. So I was impressed with that this week. But those are the only couple things I wanted to touch on. Bassmaster signups are over 100. Hobie at Sam Rayburn's coming up. I think they have around 50 signed up. So getting everything cranked up.
Absolutely. And one last thing, going back to that Harris Chain event. That was the closest we've ever come to the 26-inch board not being long enough.
Yes. Dude, it was like, I thought it was.
There was one that was 25 3/4.
Yeah, 25
the longest fish
3/4
ever turned in a Hobie BOS.
Yep. Well, did you see Hunter's board? He had the larger one. So that dude was on his lap, and there were several comments like, I can't believe that dude has that on his lap. And I'm like, there's nowhere else to put it. I think the longer board I think they're 32 inches. If I'm not
32. Yeah, I've got one.
32. Yeah, so he had the big board, but that 26-inch board, I was like, man, I mean, those fish just made those boards look so small. I mean, it looked like a daggone just a regular ruler that you would use in grade school was how small the catch boards looked. It was crazy.
Yeah, and for those of you listening that are, younger than 25, that means elementary school.
What did I say? Grade school?
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to call it grade school. So,
all right. Well, Robert, we're gonna close this one out, man. This one was a fantastic episode, and I hope y'all enjoy listening to it as much as I did recording it. But let's close it out in prayer. God, thank you so much for Chase and what he means to so many people, and what he is doing with his YouTube channel, what he's allowing you to do through him. We pray that you continue to bless his channel and his family and his content and everything that he's got going on in his life. Continue to bless it and continue to grow it. Continue to put on a show in and through him. And continue to put on a show in and through this podcast. We thank you for this podcast and for what it allows us to do, to be able to talk fishing and to talk you and to let you shine through us. And we ask that you continue to bless this podcast, and pray that you meet whoever it is that's listening to this right now. Whether it's the day that it comes out or whether it's 15 years from now, God, we ask that you meet them right where they are and provide what they need right in this moment through this podcast. We ask that you continue to keep everybody out there safe on the water whenever they go. Continue to keep the fish hungry, and let's continue to bless the sport of fishing. And we ask all of this in your name. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, y'all. Y'all take care, and God bless.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Please consider supporting those that support us. Jade's Jigs lead-free finesse tackle. Use promo code FNF10 at jadesjigs.com for 10% off. Save your outdoors. Stop losing your gear. Use promo code FNFP15 at SaveYourOutdoors.com for 15% off. Omnia Fishing. Check out Premium, Premium Pro, and their Ambassador program. Use promo code FNF10 for 10% off at OmniaFishing.com. And if it's your first order, use promo code FNF15 for 15% instead. Mr. B Lure Company. High-quality handmade baits made right here in the U.S. MrBLureCompany.com. Use promo code faithnfishn for 15% off your first purchase. Get outdoors, pedal and paddle. Check them out at the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or at shopgetoutdoors.com for all your paddling and cycling needs. And Nocqua Adventure Gear, lighting, power, and all the connectors at Nocqua.com. Please rate, review, subscribe on whatever app you're listening on. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care and God bless.